Throughout history, there have been moments shrouded in mystery, events that defy explanation, puzzles that challenge the greatest minds, and stories that have shaped our world in ways we still don't fully understand. From vanished civilizations swallowed by the sea, to unexplained phenomena that leave us questioning reality itself, to secrets hidden in ancient texts waiting to be uncovered. This is a journey into history's greatest mysteries, the events that changed everything. Join us as we unravel the untold stories behind the facts, explore the eerie and the unexplained, and dive deep into the mysteries that continue to fascinate and baffle. History's greatest mysteries, the events that changed everything. The disappearance of the Library of Alexandria. What if I told you there was a place that might have held the cure for diseases we still fight today? A place that could have revealed the Earth's true age centuries before modern science, and that it was gone, burned, scattered, forgotten. We begin our journey with perhaps the most tragic what if in human history, the Great Library of Alexandria, a treasure trove of knowledge so vast and so mysterious that its destruction remains one of civilization's greatest losses. Setting the scene, Alexandria, 3rd century BCE. Picture this, it's the year 283 BCE. You're standing in Alexandria, Egypt, a glittering jewel of the Mediterranean world. This isn't just any city, it's a cosmopolitan superhub. Greeks, Egyptians, Jews, Persians, and travelers from as far as India and Nubia walk the streets. Ships line the harbor, their sails billowing in the warm wind. And rising above it all, the Pharos Lighthouse, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Just inland, nestled near the royal palace, sits the library, not a dusty, dim-lit room, but a sprawling complex, part of the larger Mausoleum, or Temple to the Muses, where scholars lived, studied, and debated. The ambition behind the library. Founded under Ptolemy II Philadelphus, the library wasn't built out of pure love for knowledge, though that's the romantic version of the story. The Ptolemies wanted Alexandria to be the beating heart of global intellectual power. If you controlled the world's knowledge, you controlled its future. The Ptolemies had a law. Any ship that entered Alexandria's port was searched for books. If books, or rather scrolls, were found, they were taken to the library, copied by professional scribes, and the copies returned to the owners. The originals, stored permanently in the collection. Estimates vary wildly, but ancient sources claim the library might have held 400,000 to 700,000 scrolls. Imagine each scroll as a unique manuscript. Plays, maps, astronomical charts, medical treatises, religious texts, many from civilizations long gone. What might have been inside? Here's where it gets goosebump-inducing. Scholars believe the library may have contained the complete works of Greek playwrights like Sophocles, Aeschylus, and Euripides. Today we only have fragments. Histories of entire civilizations that left little to no archaeological trace. Early astronomical models that place the sun at the center of the solar system. 1,700 years before Copernicus' medical knowledge from Egypt, India, and Greece that could have advanced healthcare by centuries. Maps of lands far beyond the Mediterranean, possibly including records of early voyages to the Americas. Think about this. Every lost scroll was the end of a potential revolution in human understanding. The first blow. Julius Caesar's siege, 48 BCE, the first major disaster struck during Julius Caesar's civil war. In 48 BCE, Caesar found himself trapped in Alexandria. To prevent enemy ships from pursuing him, he ordered the harbor's fleet set ablaze. But fire is unpredictable. Ancient accounts suggest the flames spread from the docks to nearby warehouses, some of which stored scrolls destined for the library. Here's the catch. We don't know if the fire reached the main library itself. Roman historian Plutarch mentions scrolls being lost, but others argue the Mausoleum's main collection survived for a while. The second blow, Emperor Aurelian, 3rd century CE, fast forward 300 years. The Roman Empire is in chaos. Emperor Aurelian battles Queen Zenobia of Palmyra for control of the eastern Mediterranean. The fighting spills into Alexandria, and much of the Brucayan district, where the library was thought to be, is destroyed. If the library still existed at this point, this might have been its second great wound. The third blow, religious purges, 391 CE. In 391 CE, Emperor Theodosius I issued edicts outlawing pagan temples. The Serapeum, a daughter library of the Great Library, was attacked by Christian mobs. Statues were smashed, scrolls burned or scattered. For some historians, this was the moment the last remnants of the collection disappeared. The final blow, the Muslim conquest, 642 CE. One of the most persistent but controversial stories comes from centuries later, that when the Muslim general Amr ibn al-As conquered Egypt in 642 CE, he was ordered to destroy any remaining books, allegedly using them as fuel for the city's bathhouses for 6 months. Many modern historians dismiss this as a myth invented long after the fact to blame later rulers. But even if it didn't happen exactly that way, by this time the library, if it existed at all, was only a shadow of its former self. Why it changed everything. Here's the chilling thought. We'll never know what we lost. The destruction of the library wasn't a single event. It was a slow bleed over centuries, but its absence created a hole in human history. We had to rediscover ideas and knowledge that may have already been written down once. Imagine, the Renaissance could have happened in the year 500, not 1500. We might have cured smallpox in ancient times. We might have understood germ theory, electricity, or gravity centuries before we did. When an old man dies, a library burns to the ground. African proverb. But in this case, it was the library of the entire ancient world. Now, the Library of Alexandria may be history's most famous lost treasure of knowledge, but it's far from the only mystery of total disappearance. Our next story takes us across the Atlantic to a small, struggling settlement, one that simply vanished. The lost colony of Roanoke, a small English settlement, 115 men, women, and children, a promise to return with supplies, and then nothing, no bodies, no signs of a struggle, just one cryptic word carved into a tree, Croatoan. This is the mystery of Roanoke, a colonial ghost story that has haunted American history for over 400 years. And unlike the Library of Alexandria, which slipped away over centuries, the disappearance of Roanoke happened in the blink of an eye, the dream of a new world. The year is 1584. England is eager to plant its flag in the New World. Queen Elizabeth I grants Sir Walter Raleigh a charter to explore and colonize territory in North America, partly to expand trade, partly to challenge Spanish dominance in the Americas. After a scouting trip, Raleigh's men identify Roanoke Island, off the coast of modern-day North Carolina, as the perfect base. The location, protected by the Outer Banks barrier islands, rich resources inland, access to the Atlantic for trade or privateering against Spanish ships. The first attempt, 1585. In 1585, Raleigh sends his first colonists under the command of Ralph Lane. They quickly run into trouble. Relations with the local Secatan and Croatan tribes sour. Food runs low. By the time Sir Francis Drake visits the following year, Lane's men are desperate and sail back to England with him. When a supply ship sent shortly after arrives, they find the colony abandoned. Still, Raleigh isn't ready to give up. The second attempt, 1587. This time, Raleigh changes strategy. Instead of sending only soldiers and tradesmen, he sends families, 90 men, 17 women, and 11 children, to establish a permanent settlement. The leader is John White, an artist and mapmaker. White's daughter, Eleanor, gives birth to Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. It's a hopeful sign, but the settlers quickly realize they're short on supplies. White decides to sail back to England for help. The plan is simple. He'll return within months. The return, delayed by war. When White reaches England in late 1587, disaster strikes, but not in Roanoke. Europe is on the brink of war. The Spanish Armada threatens invasion, and Queen Elizabeth forbids ships from leaving for the Americas until England is secure. It's not until 1590, 3 years later, that White finally sails back to Roanoke. The vanishing. When White arrives, he finds nothing. No settlers, no bodies, no signs of violence. The only clues, the word Croatoan carved into a palisade post, the letters CRO carved into a nearby tree. White had previously told the settlers that if they ever relocated, they should carve the name of their destination. And if they were in danger, add a cross. There was no cross. Theories of the disappearance. For over 4 centuries, historians, archaeologists, and armchair detectives have debated what happened to the settlers of Roanoke. Let's look at the leading theories. 1. Absorbed by the Croatan tribe. The most straightforward theory, the settlers moved to Croatoan Island, modern Hatteras Island, and assimilated into the local tribe. This could explain the carving. Later, English explorers claimed to have seen Native Americans with gray eyes or speaking English words, suggesting intermarriage and cultural blending. But hard archaeological evidence is thin. Second, relocation inland. Some historians believe the settlers tried to move inland toward the Chesapeake Bay area, where Raleigh had originally planned to settle. Excavations at sites like Site X in Bertie County, North Carolina, have turned up European artifacts from the late 1500s, possibly from Roanoke colonists. But again, the connection isn't definitive. 3. Spanish attack. At the time, Spain considered the English colonies a direct threat. It's possible a Spanish raiding party destroyed Roanoke, but this theory lacks supporting evidence. There were no signs of battle or bodies. 4th, starvation or disease. Harsh conditions, poor harvests, and lack of supplies could have forced the settlers to abandon the colony in search of food. Disease, especially introduced pathogens, could also have wiped out much of the population. Survivors might have been absorbed into local tribes. 5. Something stranger. Of course, the lack of evidence has led to more fantastical theories, from alien abductions to time slips. While these make for great campfire stories, there's no credible historical evidence for anything supernatural. John White's heartbreak. White wanted to search for his family immediately. His daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter were among the missing, but bad weather and damaged ships forced his crew to turn back. He never saw Roanoke again. Why it changed everything. Roanoke's failure was a setback for English colonization, but not the end. In 1607, just 17 years later, the English established Jamestown in Virginia, learning from some of Roanoke's mistakes. Yet the mystery of the lost colony endured, shaping American folklore and historical imagination. It became a symbol of the fragility of human ambition, how quickly dreams can vanish into the wilderness. Imagine being one of those settlers, watching the ship with your leader sail away, promising to return, waiting as weeks turn to months, and months into years, until hope fades. If the story of Roanoke is about a people who vanished without a trace, our next mystery is about a book that appeared out of nowhere, filled with strange symbols, indecipherable text, and illustrations of plants that don't exist. For over 600 years, no one has been able to read it. The Voynich Manuscript, an ancient book written in a language no one has ever seen before. Pages filled with plants that don't exist, astronomical charts that make no sense, and naked women bathing in pools connected by pipes. For over 6 centuries, the greatest minds, from code breakers to AI, have tried to decipher it and failed. This is the Voynich Manuscript, the most mysterious book in the world. And to this day, we still don't know who wrote it, what it says, or why it even exists. The discovery or rediscovery. The manuscript gets its modern name from Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer who acquired it in 1912 while purchasing a collection of rare books from the Villa Mondragone, a Jesuit college near Rome. Voynich immediately knew it was strange, not just because of the unusual script, but because of the illustrations. Botanical drawings of plants that don't match any known species, astronomical diagrams with unfamiliar constellations, biological sections featuring groups of nude women interacting with bizarre plumbing systems. Pharmaceutical pages showing jars and herbs that don't match any medieval tradition. Physical details of the manuscript size, about 240 pages, though some are missing. Material, fine calfskin vellum, dating from the early 15th century. Carbon dating suggests between 1404 to 1438. Ink, iron gall ink, consistent with medieval Europe. Language, none, or perhaps the language, if you can call it that. The text is written in a flowing, cursive-like script. Some letters repeat, but no one can agree on what they mean. It doesn't match any known alphabet. The early history, shrouded in mystery. The manuscript's history before 1912 is murky. The first known reference appears in a 1639 letter from a Prague alchemist to Jesuit scholar Athanasius Kircher, claiming the book had once belonged to Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, who allegedly bought it for 600 gold ducats, a small fortune, because he believed it was the work of Roger Bacon, a 13th century English philosopher. From there, it supposedly passed through the hands of various scholars before disappearing into Jesuit archives. Theories about its origin. Scholars and cryptographers have proposed dozens of theories over the decades. Let's explore the most prominent. 1. A complex cipher. The most obvious theory is that the text is written in code, a cipher so advanced that it stumped even the best code breakers, including experts from World War II's Bletchley Park and the NSA. The problem? A good cipher has patterns. The Voynich manuscript has patterns, but too many of them. Some words repeat in unnatural ways. Some sections seem too random for a human-made code. 2. An unknown language. Some linguists have suggested it's an entirely unknown language, perhaps a now extinct tongue from an isolated culture. The symbols could represent sounds or syllables we've never recorded elsewhere. The challenge is, if it is a real language, we have nothing to compare it against. Without a Rosetta Stone, translation may be impossible. 3. A hoax. Could it be an elaborate prank? Some believe the manuscript was created in the 15th or 16th century to trick a wealthy collector into paying for a magical or ancient text. The nonsense script would have been just convincing enough to fool people, and the strange illustrations would make it seem exotic. But here's the problem. Handwriting analysis shows incredible consistency across hundreds of pages, suggesting it was written by someone who actually understood the system. Hoaxers usually get sloppy. 4th, alien or otherworldly origin. Yes, we're going there, because some people do. The strange plants, unknown stars, and bizarre imagery have led fringe theorists to claim it's from another world, or that it's a record of contact with extraterrestrials. There's no hard evidence for this, but it makes for an interesting science fiction angle. 5. A medieval science manual. Some historians think it might be a medieval compendium of herbal medicine, astronomy, and bathing rituals, possibly intended for women's health. The problem is, none of the herbs match reality, and the astrological charts don't fit any known zodiac. Modern efforts to decode it. In recent years, computational linguistics and AI have taken a crack at the manuscript. In 2018, a Canadian research team claimed that machine learning suggested the text might be written in a Hebrew-like language, using anagrams. Others have claimed progress only to be debunked later. The most recent serious attempt, in 2020, suggested the text could be written in a form of Proto-Romance language. But again, many scholars remain unconvinced. Here's the thing. Every time we think we're close, the Voynich manuscript slips through our fingers. Why it changed everything? The manuscript might seem like just a curiosity, but its influence has been massive. It's forced cryptographers to push the limits of their tools, challenged assumptions about how languages are structured, and inspired countless works of fiction. And perhaps most importantly, it's a reminder. There are still secrets in this world, puzzles that resist even our most advanced technology. 600 years, countless experts, and we still can't read a single sentence. The Tunguska event. It's the morning of June 30th, 1908. In the heart of Siberia, reindeer herders glance up at the sky. a strange light, brighter than the sun, streaks overhead. Seconds later, the world explodes. An unknown force flattens 80 million trees over an area the size of a major city, kills animals for miles, and shatters windows hundreds of kilometers away. And yet, there's no impact crater. This is the Tunguska event, Earth's largest explosion in recorded history that wasn't caused by humans. And to this day, it's a mystery. The blast. At 7:17 a.m. local time, something detonated over the Podkamennaya Tunguska River in a remote part of eastern Siberia. The explosion's force is estimated at 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, about 1,000 times the energy of the Hiroshima bomb. Eyewitnesses, mostly Evenki and Russian settlers, reported a fireball streaking across the sky, followed by a shock wave that knocked people off their feet and caused buildings to shake. One man 40 miles away said it felt like his shirt was on fire. Immediate aftermath. The blast leveled over 2,150 square kilometers of forest, trees blown down in a radial pattern away from the epicenter. Animals in the region were incinerated or crushed by the shock wave. Fortunately, the remoteness meant human casualties were minimal, though local reports suggest 2 or 3 people may have been killed. In Europe, thousands of kilometers away, night skies glowed eerily for several days. Newspapers reported that people could read newspapers outside at midnight without artificial light. Why no one investigated? At first, you might think the Russian Empire would rush scientists to investigate, but this was 1908. The site was in one of the most inaccessible parts of Siberia, with no railways or proper roads. It wasn't until 1927, 19 years later, that the first scientific expedition, led by Soviet mineralogist Leonid Kulik, reached the area. Leonid Kulik's expedition. When Kulik finally arrived, he found millions of trees knocked over like matchsticks, all pointing away from a central point. Scorched tree trunks at the epicenter, but no crater, no fragments of a meteorite, nothing obvious to collect. The lack of an impact crater was baffling. In every known meteor strike, you get a hole in the ground. Here there was just flattened forest. Theories through the decades, one airburst of a meteor or comet. The most widely accepted theory is that a stony asteroid or comet, perhaps 50 to 80 meters in diameter, entered Earth's atmosphere and exploded at an altitude of 5 to 10 kilometers. The energy released would have been enough to cause the observed destruction without leaving a crater, since the object never hit the ground intact. 2. A comet's ice nucleus. Some scientists favor the idea of a comet made mostly of ice. It would have vaporized completely during the explosion, leaving almost no physical trace, explaining the lack of fragments. Third geophysical event. Others have proposed that it was a natural gas explosion from beneath the Earth's surface. Siberia is rich in gas deposits, and some think a massive underground release could have ignited, though this wouldn't explain the bright fireball seen approaching from the sky. 4. Black hole encounter. In the 1970s, 2 physicists proposed an exotic idea that a tiny black hole passed through the Earth, entering in Siberia and exiting somewhere in the North Atlantic. This theory has largely been dismissed due to lack of supporting evidence. 5. Alien craft explosion. As with many unexplained events, the UFO theory has its fans, suggesting an alien spacecraft exploded in midair, either by accident or to avoid crashing. No credible physical evidence supports this, but it remains popular in fringe circles. Modern scientific investigations. Since the late 20th century, researchers have visited the site with more advanced tools. Tree ring analysis confirmed that growth patterns were disrupted for years after 1908, consistent with intense heat and shock. Microscopic spherules of silicate and nickel were found in the soil, supporting the meteor hypothesis. Computer models have reproduced the blast effects with an airburst scenario. In 2013, the Chelyabinsk meteor over Russia provided a modern analog. A smaller asteroid exploded in the atmosphere with 30 times less energy than Tunguska, injuring over 1,000 people and leaving no crater. The Tunguska legacy. The event has had lasting influence. It raised awareness of the danger posed by near-Earth objects. It inspired countless works of fiction, from science fiction novels to video games. It continues to be a focus of planetary defense research. Because if a similar event happened today over a populated area, the results would be catastrophic. The Tunguska event reminds us the universe can reach out and touch us at any moment. We've just been lucky so far. Our next mystery will take us to the streets of Strasbourg in the summer of 1518, where hundreds of people began to dance uncontrollably, and some danced themselves to death. The dancing plague of 1518. Imagine waking up one morning and feeling an unstoppable urge to dance. You try to stop, but your body won't listen. You dance for days, hours, without rest. Others join in, caught in the same strange frenzy. Some dance until they collapse. Some even die. This is the bizarre and tragic tale of the dancing plague of 1518, a strange epidemic of mass dancing that gripped the city of Strasbourg, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, over 500 years ago. Setting the scene, Strasbourg, summer 1518. In July 1518, Strasbourg was a bustling city of about 20,000 residents. It was summer, hot, sticky, tense. Europe was in the grip of famine, disease, and religious turmoil, but nothing could prepare the citizens for what came next. The first dancer, Frau Trophäa. On a typical morning, a woman named Frau Trophäa stepped outside her home and began to dance. Not a casual jig, a frantic, uncontrollable movement. She danced for hours, days even. Neighbors tried to stop her, but she seemed unable to stop. The spread of the madness. Within a week, more people had joined the dancing, 34 by one count. Within a month, the number swelled to around 400. The city was in chaos. People danced in the streets, marketplaces, and churches. Exhausted dancers collapsed from sheer exhaustion or heart attacks. Some reportedly danced to death. What did people think? Strasbourg's officials were baffled and desperate. Their response was, in retrospect, bizarre. They believed the dancing was caused by hot blood or a spiritual curse, a punishment for sins. So they hired musicians and built a stage to encourage the dancers, hoping the movement would burn off the disease. This plan backfired. It only encouraged more dancing. Possible causes, theories then and now. One, ergot poisoning. One popular modern explanation is ergotism, poisoning from a fungus called Claviceps purpurea that grows on rye and other grains. It produces toxins that can cause hallucinations and convulsions, similar to LSD. However, ergot poisoning typically causes painful symptoms and affects individuals, not groups, making it a partial explanation at best. 2. Mass psychogenic illness, mass hysteria. Many historians today believe the dancing plague was a case of mass psychogenic illness, where extreme stress and anxiety trigger physical symptoms in large groups. Strasbourg's population was suffering famine, disease, and religious pressure, all factors that could have caused psychological distress to manifest physically. 3. Religious and social pressure. Some scholars think the dancing was a form of religious expression or rebellion, a physical release from the strict moral codes of the time. In medieval Europe, dance had ritualistic importance, and people might have used it as a desperate cry for help. 4. Other theories. Other ideas include epilepsy outbreaks, epilepsy combined with psychosis, or even a cult-driven frenzy, but none fully explain the scale or duration of the event. The aftermath. Eventually, the dancing stopped as mysteriously as it began. Some dancers recovered, others died. Records end abruptly by late September 1518. Why? It changed everything. The dancing plague remains a powerful example of how human psychology, culture, and environment can combine in inexplicable ways. It forced early doctors and leaders to reconsider how mental and physical health intersect, influencing later medical and psychological theories. Over 500 years later, the dancing plague reminds us of the thin line between mind and body and how fragile our grip on control can be. From dancing crowds to a ghost ship, our next mystery drifts on the sea. A ship found abandoned with no crew, cargo intact, and no explanation. The Mary Celeste ghost ship, October 1872. A merchant ship is found adrift in the Atlantic Ocean, completely intact, with its cargo untouched. But there's one chilling mystery. The entire crew is missing, without a trace. No distress signals, no signs of struggle, just an empty ship drifting alone. This is the eerie story of the Mary Celeste, one of history's most enduring maritime mysteries. The voyage begins. The Mary Celeste set sail from New York City on November 7, 1872, bound for Genoa, Italy. Captain Benjamin Briggs commanded the ship, accompanied by his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and a crew of 7 experienced sailors. The ship was loaded with 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, a valuable and dangerous cargo. The last known communications captain Briggs was a seasoned and cautious seaman. The ship's last log entry, dated November 25th, indicated smooth sailing and no signs of trouble. The Mary Celeste was last seen by the British brig Dei Gratia on December 4, 1872, about 400 miles east of the Azores. The crew of the Dei Gratia noted that the Mary Celeste appeared to be in good condition, with sails partially set. The discovery on December 5th, the Dei Gratia crew boarded the Mary Celeste and found it completely deserted. The ship's sails were set, the rigging intact, and the cargo secure. Personal belongings, including clothes and valuables, were untouched. The captain's cabin was in order, but there was no sign of the crew, not a single person. Theories and speculations: 1. Piracy or mutiny. Initially, piracy or mutiny was suspected, but no plundering or damage was found, and the ship was seaworthy. 2. Natural disaster, waterspout or rogue wave. Some think a waterspout or a sudden rogue wave might have terrified the crew into abandoning ship temporarily. The ship may have been left unmanned but afloat. 3. Alcohol fumes, explosion, fear. With barrels of denatured alcohol aboard, the crew might have feared an explosion from leaking fumes. They may have evacuated to a lifeboat, only to be lost at sea. 4. Seaquake or underwater earthquake. A sudden seismic event might have caused the crew to abandon ship out of fear. 5. Other theories. Theories range from alien abduction to giant sea monsters to time slips. None have credible evidence. The aftermath and legacy. The Mary Celeste was towed to Gibraltar, where a maritime court investigated. Salvage claims were awarded, but the mystery of the crew's fate remained unsolved. Captain Briggs and his family were never seen again. Why it changed everything. The Mary Celeste reminds us of the vastness and unpredictability of the sea and the fragility of human life amid nature's forces. A ghost ship floating endlessly, a mystery lost to time. The Great Pyramids mystery. For thousands of years, the Great Pyramids of Egypt have stood as monumental testaments to human ingenuity. Built with astonishing precision, these colossal structures have fascinated historians, archaeologists, and engineers alike. But how were they built? And why do they continue to baffle us with mysteries about their construction, purpose, and meaning? Origins and historical context. The Great Pyramid of Giza, attributed to Pharaoh Khufu, Cheops, was completed around 2560 BCE during Egypt's 4th dynasty. It is the oldest of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and the only one still largely intact. The pyramids were part of a grand necropolis designed to honor and protect the pharaohs in their journey to the afterlife. Architectural marvels. The Great Pyramid originally stood at 146.6 meters, 481 feet, built from over 2 million limestone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons. The precision and alignment, almost perfectly facing the cardinal points, and the internal chambers' complex layout showcase engineering skills far beyond what many thought possible for that era. Theories about construction techniques. 1. Ramp theories. Most Egyptologists believe massive ramps were used to haul stones into place, but the exact design, straight, zigzagging, or spiraled, remains debated. 2. Water and lubrication. Hypotheses. Some propose water or lubricated surfaces reduced friction to move heavy blocks, but evidence is limited. 3. Alien or lost technology. Theories popular culture often suggests extraterrestrial involvement or lost ancient technologies. Ideas unsupported by archaeological evidence, but popular in media. The purpose of the pyramids: 1. Tombs for pharaohs. The primary accepted purpose was funerary, to house and protect the bodies and treasures of pharaohs. 2. Astronomical alignments and sacred geometry. Some researchers argue the pyramids align with stars or embody sacred mathematical ratios, linking them to cosmic beliefs. 3. Energy or other unknown functions. Alternative theories propose the pyramids served as power plants or spiritual energy centers. Theories without scientific support, but fascinating nonetheless. Unsolved mysteries. How exactly did the ancient Egyptians quarry, transport, and place the massive stones with such precision? What secrets lie hidden in the internal chambers, some still unexplored? Could the pyramids encode lost knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, or philosophy? The Great Pyramid's enduring legacy. The Great Pyramid continues to inspire awe and wonder, drawing millions of visitors and ongoing research. The pyramids stand as silent sentinels over millennia, monuments to human ambition, mystery, and the quest for immortality. The Dyatlov Pass Incident, February 1959. 9 experienced hikers set out on a trek through the harsh, remote Ural Mountains in Soviet Russia. Weeks later, searchers found their tent, torn open from the inside, abandoned in the snow. What followed was a chilling discovery. The bodies scattered across the mountain, some with terrifying injuries, and no clear explanation. This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident, one of the 20th century's most baffling and haunting mysteries. The expedition begins. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute. All 9 were experienced, physically fit, and well-equipped for winter conditions. Their goal: reach Otterton, a mountain about 10 kilometers north of their route. They set off in late January 1959, eager for adventure. The last communications. The hikers sent their last telegram on February 1st, reporting good progress and plans to return by February 12th. When they failed to return, a search party was dispatched on February 20th. The discovery of the tent. On February 26th, searchers found the group's tent on the slope of Kolatshiakhl, meaning Dead Mountain. The tent was bizarrely cut open from the inside, not unzipped. Footprints showed that the hikers had fled into the freezing cold, some barefoot or in socks. The bodies found over the next few weeks, search teams found the hikers' bodies scattered over a wide area and in strange conditions. 2 bodies found near a makeshift fire under a cedar tree. Others buried under snow, some partially clothed. Several had severe injuries, fractured skulls, broken ribs, one missing her tongue and eyes. Yet there was no external bruising on some with internal injuries. Official investigations and theories. The Soviet investigation concluded that an unknown compelling force caused the deaths, but details were scant and often contradictory. First, avalanche theory. The leading natural explanation suggests a small avalanche forced the group to abandon their tent. However, the slope was gentle, and no typical avalanche debris was found. Second, katabatic winds. Powerful, sudden downhill winds could have terrified the hikers, forcing them to flee into the cold. 3. Infrasound-induced panic. Some scientists suggest a weather phenomenon called infrasound could cause irrational fear and panic, explaining the chaotic escape. Fourth, military testing accident reports of secret Soviet military experiments in the area, such as parachute mines or radiation, have fueled speculation, but no concrete evidence exists. 5. Animal attack or interspecies conflict. No signs of animal predation were found, making this unlikely. 6. Paranormal and alien theories. From Yeti attacks to UFO involvement, these ideas are speculative and unsupported, but part of popular culture around the event. Unanswered questions. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains mysterious because of the tense, unusual state, the hiker's bizarre injuries, the lack of clear cause of death for some victims, the missing tongue and eyes of one victim. The legacy, the Dyatlov Pass incident, has inspired numerous books, documentaries, and investigations. It remains a chilling reminder of nature's unpredictability and the limits of human understanding. 9 young lives lost in the cold wilderness, their story frozen in time, waiting for answers. Next, we'll explore the enigma of the Somerton Man. A man found dead on an Australian beach with no identity, a cryptic message, and a case that has baffled detectives for decades. The Somerton Man Mystery, December 1st, 1948. On a quiet beach near Adelaide, Australia, a man's body is found slumped against a seawall. He carries no identification. His pockets contain strange clues. A scrap of paper with the words "tamam shud," a phrase meaning ended or finished. The mystery deepens with a secret code, missing identity, and a story that baffles police and cryptographers to this day. This is the puzzling case of the Somerton Man, one of Australia's greatest unsolved mysteries. The discovery. Early on the morning of December 1st, 1948, a couple walking along Somerton Beach found a well-dressed man lying unconscious or dead near the rocks. Emergency services were called. The man was pronounced dead at the scene. He was estimated to be in his 40s, with no obvious signs of trauma. The man's puzzling lack of identity. Despite extensive inquiries, no one ever came forward to identify the man. He carried no wallet, no identification, and no clues to his identity. His clothes had all labels removed. The police released a description in the media, but no matches were found. The tamam shud clue. Several weeks later, a tiny rolled-up piece of paper was found hidden in a secret pocket inside a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a rare Persian poetry book. The paper contained the phrase tamam shud, meaning ended or finished in Persian. The book was traced back to a car near the beach, but the owner, a nurse named Jessica Thompson, denied knowing the dead man. The mysterious code. Inside the back cover of the book was a series of letters, a seemingly nonsensical code. Despite numerous attempts, cryptographers have never conclusively cracked the code. Theories on the man's identity and death. One spy or secret agent. Some believe the Somerton Man was a spy during the early Cold War, possibly involved in intelligence activities. The cryptic code and unusual circumstances support this theory. 2. Accidental poisoning or suicide toxicology reports revealed traces of digitalis, a heart medication, and poison. Whether he was poisoned deliberately or took his own life remains unclear. 3. Unidentified illness or natural causes. The man's cause of death was undetermined. Some suggest natural causes or an unknown illness. 4. Jessica Thompson's connection. Jessica Thompson bore a strong resemblance to a sketch made of a woman connected to the man, fueling speculation of a personal connection. 5. The missing identity. Without any ID, the man's identity has never been confirmed. Efforts continue, including DNA testing of relatives, but no definitive conclusion has been reached. The Somerton Man's legacy. The case remains open and continues to fascinate true crime enthusiasts, historians, and cryptographers worldwide. A man lost in time, a code unsolved, a mystery that lingers on the shores of Australia. The lost city of Atlantis. Imagine an advanced civilization so powerful, so wealthy, it became the stuff of legend. A city of unparalleled beauty and technology, said to have vanished beneath the waves in a single day and night. For over 2 millennia, the story of Atlantis has fascinated explorers, scholars, and dreamers alike. But does it hold a kernel of truth? The origin of the Atlantis story. The earliest mention of Atlantis comes from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, who wrote about it in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias around 360 BC. Plato describes Atlantis as a powerful island kingdom located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the modern Strait of Gibraltar. He tells how Atlantis attempted to conquer the known world, but was ultimately defeated by the ancient Athenians. Then, in a single catastrophic event, the island was swallowed by the sea. Plato's Atlantis. Fact or fiction? Scholars have long debated whether Plato's story was literal history or an allegory about hubris and divine punishment. Some believe Atlantis was a real place, possibly inspired by historical events such as the destruction of the Minoan civilization on Crete by a volcanic eruption on Thera, Santorini. Flood myths common across many ancient cultures. The search for Atlantis. Over centuries, explorers and archaeologists have sought Atlantis in various locations. The Mediterranean Sea, searching near Crete, Santorini, or the Greek islands. The Atlantic Ocean. Theories place Atlantis near the Azores or Canary Islands. The Caribbean and Bahamas. Some point to submerged structures like the Bimini Road, Antarctica, or other remote locations. None of these searches have conclusively identified Atlantis. Possible explanations. One, ancient civilizations and natural disasters. Atlantis may be a composite myth inspired by real ancient cultures that suffered devastating natural disasters. 2. Myth and allegory. Plato might have created Atlantis as a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed and pride. 3rd, misinterpretations in modern myths. Modern fascination with Atlantis has spawned countless theories, often disconnected from Plato's original account. Cultural impact. Atlantis continues to inspire literature, films, and conspiracy theories, symbolizing lost knowledge and human ambition. Atlantis remains a mystery, a legend that challenges us to explore the boundaries between myth and reality. History is full of questions that remain unanswered, echoes of the past that refuse to fade, puzzles that tease our curiosity, and stories that remind us just how much we still don't know. Every artifact, every ruin, every cryptic text is a fragment of a much bigger picture, a picture we've only just begun to piece together. Some mysteries may never be solved, but perhaps that's the point. They exist not just to be answered, but to challenge us, to push the limits of our imagination, to test our knowledge, and to inspire us to keep searching, learning, and wondering. Because when we question the past, we discover more than history, we discover ourselves. If you enjoyed diving into these incredible stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you won't miss our next journey through time. And now, we'd love to hear from you. Which mystery captivated you the most? Or what other secrets of history should we explore together? Let us know in the comments below. Your curiosity helps guide the path of our next adventure. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep questioning the past to unlock the future.